I just realized that a large portion of this show is some of the debates and arguments and things that I observe online. And I didn't do it for my last Stoic show, but I'm doing it for this one. There is a description. In the description are two videos about the Oklahoma City bombings. One of them is History Debunked. The first one, I forget the guy, Hazak News Reports, I think his name is. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's in there as well. And those few people that may go over to that. The first gentleman does not, he doesn't do any commentating. He just shows video and history for who it is. And he does ask at times for donations because YouTube has demonetized his channel. And I think it is an important channel. It does show history, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But it's just, he shows I believe it's a Tony Brown Reports, and that was a PBS show, by the way. And I think it's Tony Brown's Journal on the, I guess it's Hazak, but he talks about the Tulsa riots. Some call it the Tulsa massacre, and he says that hundreds of people were murdered during that whole incident. And then you have History Debunked, and he also talks about the Tulsa massacre. And I think the beginning thing that he says is, for a while, society in America, and I guess the West, had amnesia about the whole situation, and now the reversal, we have tended to perhaps, I don't remember his words exactly, but perhaps over dramatized the incident. And there is a siren coming on. I don't know how much that's going to be heard. I don't think it is, because it's in the back, but it is kind of affecting my thought process. But if you're aware of what's going on in social media, you can't help but be thought. I mean, if you're a thinking human being, you cannot help but think that you're being gaslit and you're being dealt with by hypocrites and hypocrisy, because basically they believe, I think for me, these individuals believe that they know what is right for society, they know what is best for society, they know which information you should hear and shouldn't hear. As Brian Stelter said, freedom of reach does not mean, or freedom of speech does not mean freedom of reach. And I thought that's kind of an asshole statement, an elitist asshole statement to make. That you don't deserve, and it's kind of gaslighting, because if your message doesn't reach that many people, well, what's the point of it? Part of me would, like to put that in the description, but it's like he doesn't believe that everyone deserves access to markets, and I guess YouTube and social media kind of believe that. That's what they agree with now, is they've changed the algorithms to to basically not allow upstarts to get in, and it's really unfortunate. Um, I remember Susan Wojcicki. I don't know if you call it Wojcicki or Wojcicki, but she was being interviewed, and one of the things that she did say was, we used to be YouTube. Uh, and I think it was kind of a Freudian slip. Like, we're not YouTube anymore. Not anyone can come on and be an internet star like they were before. We've now restricted it to the elites, to the powerful elites, and they're going to tell us what information we should hear and what information we shouldn't. It's the fact that I guess the mainstream public has to be told what they can and cannot hear. It's kind of sad. And again, the person I put in the video, I think the Herzak or the Hazak, I put his video out there, and he says, he's been demonetized because of, I guess they call it controversial content, and it's really unfortunate because it's a real look into the history and some of the news programs of inflammatory content. It does show that we've been talking about the same thing over and over again, and we're expecting the same kind of results. So uh, I might do a whole show on that, on the interest I find in that. I don't know if I can show the videos because YouTube is really changing its terms and services in June 1st, and so I'm just gonna continue to talk. I mean, you're not going to be able to film people like you have before. Street interviews and other things. They're making lots of changes, and what can you do? And I think they're doing that on purpose because, again, they have an ideology and a message that they want people to hear, and they do not want that message challenged or challenged successfully. Kind of unfortunate. And you hear from these leftists today is like, oh, well, they're a private company. They can do whatever they want. They can discriminate if they want to. And of course, if it was done to them, they would be shouting bloody murder. These are hypocrites, and I really kind of believe that hypocrites want to, for the most part, unless you have to deal with them. And I've had to deal with hypocrites. I've had to deal with gaslighters. But I am aware of what they're doing. There are times where I do have the urge to strike back and strike out at these individuals. I know that it's not the best thing to do, but there are times where my anger gets the better of me, or my emotions, or maybe even my ego get the better of me, and I want to, particularly online on Twitter, I want to kind of challenge them, knowing for the most part they're not logical or reasonable. And the fact of the matter is, it would be okay, but a lot of these people do go out to hurt you and try to hurt, try to hurt your message as much as possible. They really do not believe in the First Amendment, and they want to restrict it as much as possible. When people say they're a private company, you can do what you want. Private companies can't necessarily do what they want, and YouTube and other things have a thing on hate speech, and they have a thing on misinformation. Like these mainstream news medias haven't done misinformation, and they've done quite a bit of it. I mean, we're seeing now that Dr. Fauci and this virus did come from a lab, and they tried to hide that. And government has been wrong and has lied before, and we can't discuss it, and we only have to discuss it through a filter. It's really unfortunate for this information age. It does make me kind of sad that these things are happening. And yeah, no, although there's not a hell of a lot I can do about that. I come on here and kind of vent and complain about it, but I mean, if you look a little bit into history, government and news outlets, major news outlets have told untruths, half truths, and lies before, and now they want to, like I guess they feel that the internet is filled with a lot of dangerous misinformation, like uh, the public's not responsible enough to filter truth from fiction. They treat us like children, and they're very abusive and they're very hypocritical, particularly if you are a free thinker and are somewhat conservative. I can point out of one example where the government uh, was wrong. The deaths of Americans in the Korean War at one point was over 50,000, and I don't know. Someone said they may have missed a decimal point or something of that nature, but it turned out that it was a little less than 40,000 Americans perished during the Korean War. And that's just one incident. We can go into the Gulf of Tonkin. We can go into myths that leftists or conservatives believe, but the myths are out there all around. By the way, I was on that gentleman's page. They had a thing about the Nation of Islam. I found it really interesting. But I was getting into a debate or an argument, not really a debate, I would say, but I got into a little bit of a tiff with someone who, what was he? If Malcolm X would have been MAGA fan for sure, and I I disagreed with that like 100%. That would have been the case. I am being a Stoic. I read about people who, to me, have a Stoic presence and uh, are very thoughtful. I don't agree with everything that Malcolm X stood for, but I've read his biography. Uh, I've I've looked at like anything that has his name on there. I do look at, um, and he's a man of immense discipline, and that I admire. You know, and like I said, I don't agree with everything that he said, just as I don't agree with like 100% of it, what anybody says. I don't think. I mean, there are a few people perhaps that I agree with, like just about everything that they've said, about 99% of it. But for the most part, um, I don't agree with. I don't agree with, like there are people that I can admire, but I don't have to necessarily agree with what they're saying. And saying that he would have been MAGA, I think I responded was, Malcolm X was a very disciplined and skeptical person. He was skeptical of this country. Make America great again would never have been one of his slogans because, you know, to him, I mean, like, and to others, America great again perhaps would have been back in the time of Jim Crow. And Jim Crow was only, before he died in 1965, and it was less than a couple of months, like 4 or 5 months before the 1964 Civil Rights Act had been placed. So who knows how he would have he would have interpreted things, um, you know, uh, 60 years, 50 years, over 50 years later, how he would have been interpreting things had he lived. He would have been, I guess, maybe in his 90s today had he lived, and how he would have went through the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, uh, what his perspective on things would be. He was a Muslim. He was I don't know what kind of, I don't recall what kind of Muslim he was, but he had rejected the Nation of Islam's form of uh, the way in which they practiced Islam, and he was practicing his own. I mean, a more authentic brand of Islam. So who knows what he would have said and how he would have interpreted things. I think people are, they want, a lot of people want, minorities, particularly there are a lot of MAGA people that want blacks, to embrace uh, Trump, particularly for the next election, and they want them to be conservative. And I think that's a mistake to kind of pander to people. If you kiss up and pander to them, they're not going to they're not going to see your way, and it's also not authentic, and it's not that intelligent either. And anyone with an ounce of sense is not going to see that. I mean, there are reasons to be conservative. There are reasons why you shouldn't depend on the government and strive not to. But the thought that you're going to get people that admire Malcolm X to vote MAGA, it's not going to happen. I mean, uh, most of the people that admire are blacks that are Trump fans. I don't think there is much MAGA. I mean, they're Malcolm X fans. There could be. I mean, and there are deep thinkers, uh, and black people that are black conscious that perhaps are conservatives, but a lot of times they're not even involved in any of the political systems whatsoever. And I'll go into to further detail on certain things. Now I know that Muhammad Ali, who was a follower, of an admirer of Malcolm X, and he helped bring him into the Nation of Islam. That Muhammad Ali became a Republican, and he actually voted for Reagan. I know he voted for him the second time he ran in '84, just because I think he greatly benefited from the tax cuts that he received, and I think that he had trouble with the IRS, just like a lot of wealthy people. The poor don't necessarily have trouble with the IRS because they basically don't have anything to declare, and they can't take anything away from them. But when you have something that can be taken away from you, then you're going to have more trouble with the IRS. But I try not to, preach MAGA or anything else to anybody. I give my opinion, and hopefully people will give their opinion. And maybe true, maybe not. And I prefer to. I basically want to be. I try to treat people the way I want to be treated, and I expect the same in return. If I can't get that, I try to avoid that person as much as possible. Uh, like I said, sometimes there are circumstances where that is not necessarily possible, and usually, as I've grown older, I don't let these individuals get under my skin. Sometimes they do, though. I'm not necessarily perfect. Uh, I mean, I am an emotional person by nature. You know, I've been into a few physical scuffles in my time, uh, although I'm 51 years old now, so I can't necessarily, I'd get hurt a lot more, and it would take a lot more for me to heal in a physical confrontation. So I want to try to avoid that as much as possible. But yeah, it's kind of interesting on what's going on. And I think the better way to handle it is to try to be an observer and, understand that your emotions may get high, but you want to examine that and find out why that is and what the best action is. Because sometimes, you know, your harsh words do nothing. Like, I've tweeted some harsh words to people online, and that really did nothing except people threatened to ban me and get my Twitter page off off the internet. They said I think I called someone a narcissist, or was showing the pattern of narcissism, and they basically all that did was they threatened to get me banned off Twitter, and they even threatened to sue me personally. And it's like, well, I'm not going to engage with a person like that anymore. Um, and then I've also been someone tried to ban me for hate speech, and it was uh, it was under German law that it wasn't. And I might go into who reports more than any other. There is one group and there's one gender that reports more than any other, uh, or seems to report more than any other about that. And uh, it's I think it's a feminine thing to not want to have freedom of speech, because of course more women are in favor of hate speech laws, and I think they are on average more in favor of internet censorship. It's kind of unfortunate, but the sexes I don't think necessarily agree that a free exchange of ideas is uh, is good. Now I do have Joey here. He has mentioned hemorrhoids. Now he could join me if he so wishes. I don't know how much he has basically heard of my show, and I have been rambling on for quite some time. So he might give a different perspective. Now he has mentioned that I should be an observer than an active participant, and I try, but sometimes my passions and my emotions get the better of me, and I become even with my questions, because it was Dr. Phil, and there's a lot about Dr. Phil that I don't particularly care for, but Dr. Phil said, questions are, on average, he said something of the effect that 99.9% of questions are statements in disguise. And of course, uh, that was the case when I was asking people questions online about certain activities and certain things. I was trying to get further down into, and it's interesting how they would like how they would avoid my questions One of them said, "It's not my job to. It's your job to learn. It's not my job to teach you." And it's like, if I had it back over to do over again, I would have mentioned like, really, your job to. We're just having a discussion here. I'm just asking for your opinion. You made a statement, and I'm asking for your opinion, and you tell me that it's really that you don't. It really seems like they just wanted to avoid the whole thing altogether. And we have Joey coming into the room with his Ralph Baskey thing, and Joey, how are you today?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, you're so full of crap. I can't believe it doesn't ooze out of your eyeballs and out of your nose and ears. What are you talking about? More women are opposed to freedom of speech laws. That is the most insane. That tells me you watch too much YouTube, right there. I don't need to know anything more. I mean, for somebody who knows a lot of people in your community, you should know better than to say it's something so ridiculous.
Wait. Do you think more
You
men?
want to incite a riot between men and women? Is that what you're looking for?
No, not at all.
Discontent? I don't know any real living woman who's ever been like against your right to say what you want to say. I have online. I've seen a lot of putrid monsters who say a lot of nonsense, but for the most part, in real life, that's not accurate at all.
Well, I mean, the statistics point to otherwise, and more women than men are in favor of hate speech laws.
They might be in favor of hate speech laws, but they're not opposed to your right to say what you want to say.
If you have a hate speech law, that's imposing for my right to speak, and because it's restricting speech. It's saying.
I understand what it is, but I don't see that applied in real life. I only see that in online discussion. Anyways, it's what you're saying. Keep going. I'm just kind of listening in.
Well, I was going to add that it has been primarily women that have called me out and have threatened to have me banned off the internet.
That is true. I've seen women kind of go off on you. I've seen a lot of people who kind of take a stand against what you're saying because they think that you're a racist. I mean, I've seen that a lot.
Too bad they don't know me and how fun I am, but I guess people kind of believe that stuff. It's like, and the thing is, the goalpost for racist continues to be moved back and back, particularly for white people.
Oops, sorry, I gotta run.
And Joe has just left. I don't know if he's going to be coming back, but they continue to move the goalposts. What was racist in 1965 is not considered racist today. And I'm reminded, by the way, I also want to say that you should, by the way, go to both those go to both those YouTube channels that I put up if you have any free time. It is an interesting history that the person. I mean, he has old shows, and he talks about really the history. It's almost like a television history that he has found. It's really interesting, and I hope his channel stays on, and perhaps people can fund what he does because it's so, to me, really fascinating. Some of the stuff in the past, and some of the same things that they've said before, they have said again. And I don't know how much longer I'm going to stay on with Joe, but I think Joe was wrong because women are the ones who will women have been the ones who will tend to report you to the authorities. And Stefan Molyneux said something kind of interesting. It's, words are less important to men than they are to women because of the way they're structured. And, men, they at times get physically assaulted. So any time where you can't get physically assaulted is a good thing, but women are far more hurt by words. They live in, social cliques where words can really have a lot of damage. And men tend to brush that off a little bit easier, perhaps. Some don't. Now, look, there are men that are bigger drama queens than women, and they're sensitive over everything. But to a degree, as a man, you do at some point have to thicken that skin, and that's more on the male side than it is on the female side. However, I've met quite a few women who have thick skin and don't really get upset that often. Although, on average, like online, the people who have threatened me or gotten online are the women. I think there are men that do that too, uh, and I don't really know like what the background of the men who have done that, but it's just not really good. It's not good for males or females. It's it's really a wrong behavior. I mean, you don't have to listen to the person that's talking. I mean, this YouTube channel right now, you can go, you can just turn it off. You could and never listen to it again and think it's a complete load of nonsense. I just give my perspective on things, and yeah, so that's about all. Like I said, I hope people go take a look at at the YouTube channels that I posted online. You'll see just a different perspective on what the mainstream media and the establishment has about the Oklahoma riots. And this person who's a studied man of history debunked how he has it. And like I said, I think the person's name who on the first on the first description of the YouTube channel is his it's Hezakya. So just examine it, take a look at it. Uh, it is something of history, something to examine, something to look at, and hopefully we'll come to a point where we do have freedom of speech. I would love to see a certain type of Google or YouTube channel where it was done the way it was done before. Information was free flowing. You could look up anything, and I have hopes for that. I don't necessarily think that is going to happen, but certainly my hopes, because I think you get better. Human beings get better through dialogue and through honest and open discussion. And I'm still learning myself. I still get my passion, and I have when somebody is gaslighting or becoming showing forms of narcissistic behavior or pattern recognition of behavior that I find abusive. Sometimes I have an urge to give them the what for online, and I know that that's not good. It's not a good tactic. Hopefully, I can remember not to do that with people, but sometimes, just like I shouldn't eat sugar and I shouldn't eat sweets, but I do it and it makes me feel awful. But sometimes the urge comes over me. So I have a lot of things that are primal in me, that are perhaps like a primal instinct that I'm trying to control, and I haven't yet, but I hope to. Anyway, like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. And maybe if you listen to the other videos, leave a comment down below on that. And if perhaps you can fund those videos, particularly the first one, because he is asking for it because they've demonetized it. Anyway, like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and maybe even share it. Share this video. Thank you for listening.